Well, Razorback fans, Arkansas lost to Alabama once again. It was closer than what many of us thought, but does it really matter? Well, let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, the Game Time app. So be sure to download it, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, all things considered. But for the fifth Monday in a row, I come before you once again, Razorback fans, talking about a Razorback football loss. Yep, it sucks. Still sucks. Still not fun. Still not enjoying ourselves. Still not even really knowing what this season is about and really what to make of this season. And it just seems like there's a lot of frustrations, and rightfully so. But in this particular case, Arkansas did go up against Alabama, where they were a 19.5-point underdog. And Arkansas was able to keep it within striking distance, but so close yet so far. 24-21, Alabama gets the win. And honestly, it was a frustrating game like so many of them have been before. Arkansas had problems offensively. They couldn't run the ball effectively. You had a total of 100 net yards in this game rushing, averaging 2.8 yards a carry. The passing game wasn't really there either. You only had 150 passing yards. 14 of 24 is what KJ Jefferson went. But did have 2 touchdowns, mind you. Neither team threw an interception, and neither team had a fumble. Neither team committed a turnover, if you will. But, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you don't get the win. I understand that. I know that. But there were some positives and there were some negatives in this game. So let's work through that, because I want to talk about later in the podcast about specific fans and how they're supposed to approach this mentality that they're looking at with the football season. So let's just talk about the game itself, okay? Arkansas's positives. We'll do that first. Cam Little, my goodness, that dude might be the best kicker that Arkansas has had in quite some time. And that's saying something, because they've had some really great kickers. I've always felt like Zach Hawker was the quintessential clutch kicker. He was really good. Connor Limpert, I think he broke some records at Arkansas, and he was a really good kicker. The only problem with Connor Limpert is he played on crappy teams. That was during the late Brett Bielema era and then the Chad Morris era. So it's like, as much as he was a good kicker, you didn't really get to see so much of it in those years because of just how awful the team was. But Cam Little's out here. He kicked a 55-yard field goal to start the game, and then a 49-yard field goal. And that's on top of what he did in Ole Miss, where he kicked 2 50-yard field goals, and also what he did against Texas A&M. The guy is on another level. He's all SEC, and if he keeps this up, he might be All-American. Because, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know many kickers in college that are 4 for 4 from field goals of 50 yards plus. And that 55-yarder he hit, that might have been good from 70. Maybe I'm embellishing a little bit, but that thing was a no-doubter. So Cam Little, awesome in this game once again. Landon Jackson had a phenomenal game, a game that we were all hoping that he would at some point in time, and he really saved it going up against the Crimson Tide. He had 11 total tackles, 7 of them solo, 3.5 sacks in this game. Just was eating that left tackle's lunch, and had as good of a game as you'd ever ask for out of him. Jaheim Thomas had 10 tackles, so he had a really nice game. A.J. Green, I know I just talked about the rushing attack, but he did have 6 carries for 44 yards. It's averaging 7.3 yards a carry. Don't know why he didn't run it more. Don't know why he hasn't run it more this year, because it certainly seems like if you're looking at his averages, he's been the best running back, sans Rocket Sanders, who we'll also talk about later in the podcast. So you had those guys were great. Andrew Armstrong, Isaac TeSlaa, Isaiah Satania finally got into the mix a little bit. And then, of course, Ty Washington's great too. Like, not only did he have a great first catch, had for 25 yards, but he also had a great block downfield. Like, it just seems like he's been a great dude. So, like, those are the individuals that really stood out as far as being great. And even though I, like, talked about some of the numbers and stats and everything, KJ Jefferson was good. He had one of the coolest plays. Again, I wish I could replay it here on the podcast, but else I'd get copyright striked, however you want to say it, if that's even a word. But what he did to that Alabama defender, where he just spun him around and then threw him to the ground, and just Nick Saban's comment about it was hilarious too. Once again, I wish I could play it, but just a great play, great competitor. Arkansas was down 24-6 early in the third quarter. 24-6. Actually, it wasn't even early. It was about midway point in the third quarter. And I thought it was all for naught. I thought it was like, all right, well, it's about what I expected. Didn't score anything, but then they didn't give up. They kept fighting. Arkansas gets a touchdown late in the third quarter. They get another touchdown from Dabinian and a wheel route. They get the 2-point conversion, but they just can't do anything about it. And I still believe there's a lot of plays we could point to, but man, if Rashad Dabinian just does not trip on that one, I think it was second down on the final drive for Arkansas where they had to punt. If he doesn't trip on that, I think he might have gone the distance. So woulda, coulda, shoulda, but you had your opportunities there. But that was the positives. And, again, there's no moral victories, but now not only has Arkansas lost 5 straight games, but 4 of those games have been within one possession. All of them on the road, except for BYU. And the only one that was not a one-possession game was A&M, where you lost by 12. So that's about it for the positives in this game. The negatives in this game is, once again, the offense just can't get anything going. It's the worst offense in the SEC, and maybe one of the worst ones in Power 5. So it at least comes statistically. I feel like, actually, I think Andrew Hutchinson may have tweeted this out, that Arkansas is on pace to have the worst rushing team since 1997, because Arkansas is only averaging 2.8 yards a carry right now as a team on the season, and that is on pace to be the worst since 1997. So they still can't run the ball effectively. The passing game is there at times, but because of the pressure that's under KJ Jefferson, he either doesn't have time to do it or he has to improvise, which honestly is when I feel like this team is at its best. This team is at its best whenever KJ Jefferson is improvising and being KJ. But it's a frustrating thing to watch. It's a frustrating thing to see and just be like, man, the defense is doing everything they can. Like, I've been so impressed by the defense. I'm not saying they're perfect, because they did have 2 big-time plays that went for big touchdowns in this game, breakdowns and coverage. But besides that, they really did a great job getting after the quarterback and keeping Alabama in check. And they've done enough to keep you in these games, but the problem is that you just haven't done enough offensively to win them. And it's the same reoccurring problem. The offensive line struggles. You still got some guys like Chambly and Kudas who, I think Trey Biddy talked about the potential they have, which I think that they do have potential. They got the size, but maybe they're just not where they need to be. Even, Latham has had his struggles. Like, the whole offensive line has just struggled in general. So you still have the same reoccurring problems. But I think it's just as frustrating when, it goes back to last year. You had a great offense, bad defense. This year you have a great defense, bad offense. Like, why can't you just do them at the same time? Why can't you have them both at the same time? And if Arkansas just had an offense, just an inkling of an offense, you can call it a middle of the pack in the SEC offense right now, I believe that they would be no worse than 4-2 or 4-3 right now, at no worse. But probably 5-2 and maybe even 6-1. Again, I know that doesn't matter in the end because, you are who you are. You're 2-5. But it's the offense that continues to hold this team back. And I know that, like, I've talked about Sam Pittman, and, some of you already feel like you need to move on. They need to fire him. And I've said that too, if he doesn't make a bowl game, which they still can. But, it depends on what this season gets. Because one thing I will say about him is, like, I've criticized him. And some of you may feel like I'm not harsh enough, but that's not what I do. I'm not here to just say fire everybody. And, and again, we'll talk about some of the expectations that Razorback fans have right now. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to be critical of things that I've seen that have been worth being critical about. And there's been plenty plenty of things, plenty of reasons to be annoyed, plenty of reasons to be frustrated, plenty of reasons to be angry. But the thing that I at least appreciate, and I said this in my live stream, that I appreciate from this team and from this staff is that it is so easy to let go after a 5-game losing streak and not play hard. Just give up on the year, give up on the season, just say what we're doing is not working, screw this, we're out. It is so easy to do that, especially in this modern day of college football, and they don't do it. They don't do it. This team still fights. This team still goes. This team still has reasons for people to watch them and what they do and how they do it and say, hey, I know they're not winning. I know it's annoying that they're not winning and not winning these one-possession games. But dadgummit, you don't have to worry about them giving up or just throwing in the towel. They just don't do it. And I think that that's at least appreciated. It doesn't fix anything. It's not an excuse. It's not a moral victory. It's appreciated is all it is. And so you've lost 5 straight. You've lost 5 straight. And we'll talk about some of the expectations that fans have and some of the frustrations that the fans have here in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you, though, about game time. You know, there's a lot of different things that come to mind whenever you're going to sporting events and whatnot. And some of it can be great. Some of it can be frustrating, especially when you're trying to find tickets. But with the Game Time app, it's the only ticketing app that gives you a complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat whenever you're about to buy. And that way you know exactly what you're getting when you arrive. And all-in prices show you the total up front. So you know you're getting the best deal without these stupid hidden fees that so many people throw in. It's like, oh man, I got this ticket for $50 on these other apps. But then you go to checkout and suddenly it's $180 for each ticket. You're like, what happened? What went into that? You don't have to worry about that with Game Time. They're always going to make sure that they have the best prices up front, so you don't have to worry about any hidden fees or anything like that. So here's what you do. You just go and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We're also brought to you by Prize Picks. Now, I know that a lot of people have heard me talk about Prize Picks, and you're still wondering what it is. It's a daily fantasy sports platform, and it's independently owned, the largest one in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks and all that, you just pick more or less. That's on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and watch the winnings roll in. It's simplistic. It's easy. You just do more or less. There's not a bunch of things that can be confusing or anything like that. They make it as simple as they possibly can for Prize Picks when it comes to daily fantasy. It's really simple to play. You can make your picks and your submissions all in less than 60 seconds. It's that quick. Plus, with the quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stats, that's what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. I use it. It's awesome. If you use it, I know it'll be awesome for you too. So just watch that money roll right in. So go over to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100 with Prize Picks.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I hate having to approach it like this because I know people are going to take it probably in a bad way, which it doesn't need to be taken in a bad way at all. In fact, it's more of a compliment towards Razorback fans in general. But I just want to say it for my own sake that I hear from all of you. I hear you. I hear the approach that you're taking when it comes to this football team. And some of you have just gone from 0 to 100. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what's going on. You want everyone fired. You want it blown up. You think Sam Pittman's the worst. You think he's Chad Morris 2.0, which is still the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But you just go to that level. And I think that's just a little over the top. And then there's also some people that are just going to be positive no matter what, and everything's fine. Like you're like that meme of the dog and the house is burning. You say, hey, this is fine. When it's not. sometimes you can go into the middle. Like, you can be both upset and you can also be realistic. You can be frustrated and criticize while also looking at some of the positives that might be able to provide some sort of reason to believe that a certain coach or a certain player or even the team in general can still get something done. And what I mean by that is, like, on Saturday, I had so many fans where I was like, I'll live tweet during the game. And when Arkansas was down big, especially, I think it was when it was 24-6. And even though I don't even think it was that, I think it's when they were just down in general. I made a comment about, man, how, Max Fletcher has been really a lot better as a punter since we saw him in that BYU game. And, people just come at it just like that. Oh, well, girl, thank goodness we got a good punter. Wow, forget the rest of the stuff. Wow, extensions all around. Relax. Like, you can still look at some positives of what this team has done, or at least the individuals, like a Landon Jackson, like a Cam Little, like an AJ Green, like a Ty Washington. Like what these guys have done as individuals. You can still be complimentary. You can still understand, what they're doing and look at the positives while also looking at the overall picture and be critical of it too. Like, you can do both. But here's the problem with all of this and what makes it such a weird, unique situation. Because, yes, you're 2-5, but this isn't a Chad Morris thing. This isn't even a Brett Bielema thing. This is a whole new type of thing. And here's why. If I told you before the season started that you were going to go on the road, this is the only thing I told you, you were going to go on the road and lose to Alabama 24-21. I think all of you would be like, oh, well, okay, yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting to win that game anyways, but hey, we kept it close and maybe did some good things. So yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I'll take that. Or if I was to tell you that you go on the road to LSU, Baton Rouge, night game, 6 p.m., and you lose by a field goal, where you're tied. It was a great back and forth game, and they win it on the last second field goal. Most of you have been like, man, yeah, that would be nice to win that one. I hate LSU. But, going down to Death Valley at night and, only losing by a field goal, yeah, it's pretty good because, that'd be fine. Even the same thing with Ole Miss a little bit. It's like, hey, you go there, it's a high-flying offense, but you hold them, and you only lose by a touchdown. And that's all I told you. Maybe not as much, but still, it's a matter of these games where if you take them in the moments and you take them into just in their own little framed box, it's not bad. But what's bad is when you have done this every single game. You've done it for 5 straight games. Like, that's when it becomes bad. See what I'm saying? If you look at these games in their own little moment, it's nothing that's because I mean, I don't know, maybe some of you did, but before the season started, when I went through my wins and losses and I go back and look at it, I thought Arkansas would start 3-0, just like everybody did. They didn't, but you thought that they would beat BYU. But then this 4-game stretch, we all knew how difficult it was, and I had them going 2-2. I thought that they would beat Ole Miss, and I thought that they would beat A&M. Okay? Well, they didn't. They haven't. And they're still 2-5. But the point is like, when you went into this year and seeing these expectations, it makes it a different type of frustrating when you're losing, but you're just this close to winning. And it's a matter of like a push and pull. It's like, maybe some of you feel this way, but like, I get frustrated by it, but I don't want to blow up the entire operation. Right now, just blow it up and start from scratch. When you're literally going on the road into the most hostile environments against the best teams in your division, and you're losing by a possession. You're still losing, I get it, but like, that's not something you just blow up the whole operation for. It's the matter of the stacking up losses that makes it so much worse. And so it's a matter of, do you look at it and just say, sucks, but maybe they could just do an overhaul of something, change a lot of things, and then next year fix it. Like, maybe Sam Pittman can fix it because I think he did a great job of fixing the defense and the issues that I had last year. Who's to say that he can't fix the offense and the issues that they have this year and the next year? Again, maybe I look at it in a different light than you do. And again, maybe if you want people fired, that's fine. If you want to blow up the whole operation, that's your MO. But my whole thing is I just don't understand sometimes how, like, people like me, like, I get attacked if I just look at things that I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty good, or that player is pretty good, and it doesn't matter. Like you just want to be mad, and you just want everything gone. And there's some of you, I believe, that even if Arkansas had beaten Alabama on Saturday, like I don't even know if you would have celebrated. I don't even know if you would have been happy. It would have been almost like mad. It's like, oh, so now we beat Bama, but then we lose all these other games. It's like, man, sometimes you just got to look at it in the moments of what they are. Arkansas is not what they're needing to do. They're not where they need to be. So, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It's something to where you're close, and it doesn't matter how close you are if you're still losing. But I just, at this moment in time, we'll see, because Mississippi State's the biggest game of Sam Pittman's career. And we'll see what they do the rest of the way. But I just, at this moment and at this juncture, I don't think this is something that you just explode and blow up and start from scratch once again. I don't think we're to that point yet. Although it's getting there pretty rapidly. Folks, I got to tell you about Athletic Brewing. You've heard me talk about it each and every Monday here on the podcast, and it's time for the Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Landon Jackson, the Razorback defensive lineman with 3.5 sacks and 11 tackles, Athletic Brewery has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. If you can believe it or not, they actually taste good. And with Athletic Brewing Company, they have completely changed that game, and they also make these non-alcoholic beers that are full flavor and well-crafted, just like it's a full-strength beer. They are great tasting and award-winning, and they beat out full-strength beers in their global competitions, and they have over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden sours, and so much more. They're fit for all times. You can drink them anywhere, anytime, and make an activity a lot more enjoyable. Watching a big game, your kid's game, tackling work, or even working out, and there's no hangovers ever. So you can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I got these questions asked about just some kind of cleaning up things and heading into Mississippi State about Rocket Sanders. And Rocket Sanders didn't play against Alabama. And Sam Pittman said, and I had it pulled up with the video, but the video quality wasn't good and it was hard to hear him. But it was a weird deal because he was saying that he has some soreness, and Sam Pittman alluded to Rocket. He didn't feel like it was 100%, so I have no idea really when he's going to be back. And man, when I heard that, I kind of first got the feeling of, is there something more going on here than what we realize? Is it actually this injury, or is it something else? Because Rocket met with the media this week. He was one of the players out of practice that met with the media. And when Sam Pittman's not saying we decided that he needed to hang out or we decided this, he said that he wasn't 100%. It starts to make me wonder if there's some more going on to it. And if he says no idea when he's going to come back, I mean, for crying out loud, there's 5 games left. He could be out the rest of the year, rest of the season. And is it a soreness issue? Is it is it some more serious injury than we even realize? Or is it something to where he's kind of like, I'm not going to play anymore. I want to focus on the NFL and focus on getting ready for the next level. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. But it was just peculiar that he said that. And who knows? Maybe this week we'll find out a little bit more. And maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But it was certainly a weird comment by Sam Pittman. And maybe gives a little bit of an indication of actually what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know. It was just very strange. And also, I had somebody else ask me too, if Arkansas is, they got their favorable schedule. I think 4 of their next 5 games, final 5 games are at home. They have 3 SEC games, right? 4 SEC games, and 3 of them being at home. And honestly, all of them are very beatable opponents. I think that Mississippi State is one that you have to win. Auburn is definitely beatable. Florida going down to Gainesville is tough, but Florida's had their struggles this year, even though they beat South Carolina. Not saying that they're bad by any stretch, but they are beatable. And then Missouri at the end of the year, I know that they're coming off a huge win against Kentucky. But I don't know. I just feel like a lot of these games are winnable, so we'll see what the rest plays out. But the question was, like, will this offense ever get going? Will it actually, like, ever get put together and start moving forward? Because if it doesn't get put together now, will it ever? And I guess my response to that is no. No. I think this is about, like, there'll be times, I think, when the offense can maybe put it together sometimes. But when it comes to putting a full-fledged four-quarter game together of good-looking passing and good-looking rushing, I think we're past that point. If Arkansas is going to win these games, it's going to be based on how good the defense plays and also if the offense with KJ Jefferson can just be KJ. Like, KJ needs to be able to just the quicker that KJ can move, the better he is as a player. The less he has to think things through, the better he is. And that's not an insult against him or an insult against his intelligence and everything. It's just some people are just better, quicker on their feet. And I think KJ is built like that. And that's why he was so perfect for the offense that Arkansas was running previously. And I think that may be one of the things that's and the US offense has struggled with, where they don't let KJ, or at least have the playbook and everything about KJ, letting him just, hey, as soon as I get the ball, I got a decision. Or as soon as I get the ball, I'm going to look at this. And if that's not there, I'm going to do this. Like, quick. But if you have to go back there, stand in the pocket, especially this offensive line that's been struggling to pass protect, stand in the pocket, and he's got to go 1. Okay, no, it's not there. And 2. Okay, well, that's all right. My drop off over here. There we go. Like, that's where the problems are going to come in. So I don't think the offense will ever go. The best offense will be for Arkansas is, one, going up against a bad defense. That helps. But also, if KJ Jefferson is just allowed to be KJ and can be KJ and have certain performances, that just shows how great KJ is. That's really what it comes down to. But we'll talk about that throughout the rest of the week. By the way, real quick, I'm going to be at SEC Basketball Media Days this week. Yeah, it is a thing. I think I call it the SEC Tip-Off 2024, something to that extent. I was there last year, and it was fun. So I'll be talking some basketball later this week just because I'll be down there live in Birmingham. I don't know really what to expect. Hopefully there's some cool stuff and some cool content, but we'll definitely do a lot of basketball this week because I'll be down there, and I know you guys have been asking about and enjoying it, so I just want to have a reminder of that as well. But appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.